In the easy chair with my boots on, melted whiskey in my hand. I couldn't have been asleep for more than 3 hours. Time to go to work again. Once more I beat the sunrise, and there's a dark breeze at my door. Raise the water from the well up to my face. How could a man like me be poor? As long as there's water, chilly, wet water. Give me some of that cool water. Well, my horse's eyes are glassy. He breathed a city in his lungs last night. I led his natural body to the trough to regain his might. Red rooster crow them blues here. That old blue he riled the bull. And the morning's crying rays of sunrise. It hasn't rained for 3 weeks full. As long as there's water, chilly well water. Give me some of that cool, cool water. Venus light is rising. I lay my buckets inside the shed, and there's a man I see, a stranger, leaning on the gate outside my fence. Said I'm riding out from the city where they started holding water back last night. I was hoping I could get a drink from your well before I ride on to another city tonight. Before I ride on to another city tonight. Before I ride on to another city tonight. Chilly well water. Chilly well water. Before I ride on. That is by Widespread Panic. It's one of my favorite bands. I have several favorite bands, but they're one of them that, you know, just takes me to that place. Well, it's good to join you on the path. This is the first show I've done it's been at least 2 weeks. I think it's been 2 full weeks. I don't think it's been 3. Maybe it has. I had, do you ever say, like, oh, I had a bad day? You had a bad week. You say you had a bad month. You say you had a bad year. Maybe you say you had, you know, a bad whatever length of time. Maybe it was childhood. Maybe it was marriage. Maybe it was all these things. Maybe that's legitimate. But typically I wasn't one of these people to say, oh, I've had a bad given length of time. Not even a bad day. You know, yeah, but things that were unpleasant have happened to me on a bunch of different days, but I never was like, man. And maybe there has been a time where I said, man, today kind of sucked. But last month was crazy. So today's the 1st, right? September 1st. So I'm sure it's not for you right now, but, well, it is right now for a lot of the world. But by the time it gets published, it won't be the 1st. But so August was crazy for me. So I opened my gym in April with partner Valery Fedorenko. We have a lot of cool plans. So before that, I was teaching at a couple other places. I was teaching classes, and I had one-on-one sessions. And then when I started to do stuff on my own, I kind of started out doing a little bit less. And so it's still okay. The gym was profitable right away. And but like I had like one of my clients took like a hiatus, and, you know, that's X amount per week. And it's like, okay, that's cool. Just, you know, come back when you can. There was nothing wrong or anything. It was just, you know, that's just the way it is. Clients come and go. And then something else happened, which I won't get into, that cost me money. And then not a client thing, or it was just something else that cost me money. And then so I was like, okay, I can absorb that. It's like it's unpleasant, but it's another monthly fee, another monthly expense for me, business thing. That's yeah. Anyways, and then so last Thursday, so 2 Thursdays ago, so not like 3 days ago, but 10 days ago, uh, I got fired from my job. So yes, I own a gym, I have clients, it's profitable, but I a still kept a full time job because the gym business can be kind of funny, and I'm not going to let it fail. And if that means working full time somewhere else to make sure I have everything together, then that's what I'm going to do. I won't have to do that forever, but I'll do it because the gym will be successful. It is successful already. And even if there are like a drop in clients, which happens at every single gym at some point, then I'll be in a position to absorb it. Well, I got fired from my job. So, and it was a job where um, it was okay, but um, I'd have to be there at 3 o'clock in the morning a lot of the times, a lot of times working Saturdays. And the new manager was, he was all right sometimes, but was on quite a firing spree. And I mean, my only thing was I was late. So I can't say that he fired me for no reason. I was late. It was tough to get there at 3 o'clock in the morning, still have like clients and stuff, classes in the afternoons and evenings. Well, that wasn't hard. That part wasn't hard. That part's like a fun challenge for me. But waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning to get to work by 3 was hard. And then, there's no air conditioner in there. It was hotter inside than it was outside. So, like on one of the machines, like the last machine that I was on, the main operator of that machine, it's a big press. It's a big, it makes boxes pretty much. And it's hot. And the main operator said something like the hottest that he saw it, he said he didn't know exactly where the thermometer on the machine was, but it read 130 degrees. It's hot. It's hot. I'm telling you, it's hot. You know what I'm saying? It's hot in there. And so that was one of the hotter spots, but a lot of the machines, they produce quite a bit of heat. You're in there for 10 hours, 8 hours on Saturday, and then just whatever. I ended up being late enough times that they fired me. So that was all in a month. So I had new clients like come in, but like one of my steady clients that was coming 3 times a week, he went on a hiatus. Like a new client, it's going to be like more like a really strong athletic guy who just like wants lessons pretty much. Some people come to me, they like to work out on their own, and they know a lot about fitness, but they come to me for like really detailed kettlebell technique. So they know that they're not really asking me about what to do every single workout. It's more make sure their technique is correct. And so I have a lot of people that come in like that the nature of it doesn't last a long time. And I do those kinds of things too. I go get coaching. It's like, I'm going to do with you 3 times a week for a long time. It's like, oh, I'm going to go do this every once in a while. So I take it as a compliment because people know my technique is good. Other people stay with me for a very long time. Everybody's different. But anyways, so I had more, just be flat out honest about it. Everybody likes to present their business as super successful and just more and more all the time, sitting by this Lamborghini. But there was a decline last month. It was the first decline that I had starting in April. It was the first time it dipped a little bit, and it wasn't anything I couldn't even absorb. It was okay. And then something else happened prior to that. I was like, okay, I can absorb that. So now we're talking like with both those things happening, and it's like about $900 a month less that I would be bringing in. It's like, okay, I can absorb that. That's not pleasant, but I can absorb that. That's okay. More clients will be coming in. It's fine. Then I get fired from my full-time job. Well, now we're talking like $4,000 a month. And I'm saying these like numbers because I know a lot of people are in like a similar position as me. They were starting a business. They don't know exactly how to put everything together. So these are some, I'm not going to tell you exactly what I'm bringing in, but I'll tell you, just put that into perspective from where I was. Absorbing $900 less in that month, it was okay. Not a big deal. But then losing my job, and now we're talking like $1,000 a week or so less. That hurt something. And so I was in there getting fired, and it was at the end of the day on Thursday, so 1:00 into that work day. I saw clients that evening, but they were telling me, "No, so we hate to do this, but we got to cut you loose." And I was like, "Is there any way to like just let this slide a little bit?" I started getting my points back in just a couple months. It's on this rolling calendar year, and so I was like, they like my work there. I do a good job. And they're like, it's a corporate thing. There's nothing that we can do about it. I was like, okay. And my attitude about it wasn't like this impending doom or dread. It was just like, whatever. That was pretty much the way I thought about it. Like, whatever. I mean, and so I go home and have my clients, and then I talked to my buddy that night. I missed his phone call. I thought that he called me by accident and hung up. But what happened was when I picked up my phone, I hit decline. And so I didn't realize I did that until a couple of days later. I heard his voicemail. So I call him back Thursday night and catch up on what he was calling about. And I was like, oh, man, I thought you just hung up. I didn't know you meant to call and all that stuff. And he was like, yeah, anyway, so what's going on with you? I was like, well, I got fired today. And he goes, oh, man. He goes, well, I could probably get you on where I am. And it's at a dye shop, a cutting dye shop. I've done that kind of work before. And I was like, okay, cool. He's like, well, let me try to get the manager's number. And now we're talking like 8:00 at night. And so he calls me back and he said, yeah, manager said to come in at 8:30 tomorrow morning, which was Friday. So I'm like, okay, cool. And so I get there at 8:30 in the morning. It went really well. Got hired on. So I got fired at 1:00 on Thursday, and I got hired for pretty much the same pay. The next morning at like by 8:45, I was offered the job. Pretty much the same pay as I was at the last place. They do have air conditioning. The machines don't produce heat. It's like it's a dye shop. It's and it's a lot more relaxed of an environment. You know, people do their work, and it's a lot less labor than what I was doing. My main job was running this laser cutter, and manager seems real cool. I knew a couple guys there already. And just so it's like you get fired from a job that you don't really like. Next morning, you get hired at a job that's much, much better. Same pay. Don't even miss a beat. Don't miss a paycheck. Don't miss anything. Everything just like fell into place there. But it was a really crazy month. So that's not all. I'm in the parking lot of my interview on Friday, and I noticed my coolant is leaking in my car. I have a car and I have a Jeep Cherokee. I'm like, oh, great. And so I leave from getting my new job, and then I had to go do my drug test and stuff. So I had to drive to go do that. More coolant's coming out of my car. I get that done. I drive from there, so I couldn't tell. I didn't know yet where the coolant was coming from. I couldn't tell. I don't even know if I popped the hood. I just drove it straight to Midas, or actually Firestone. Had them look at it, and I don't know why I didn't even look under the hood. And they ended up telling me, oh, it's going to be this. It's this $1,400 part that I just replaced. It's like in this car, it's weird. The coolant goes around the throttle body, and the hose coming off the throttle body was leaking. It's for whatever reason, those parts cost $1,400 new. I put a used one on it a few months ago. Now it's leaking. So I'm like, well, I'm not doing that. I'm not spending $1,400 on this thing. So they're like, okay, cool. You can leave it in our parking lot for a few days. No big deal. So I go, I take an Uber home, and I get my Jeep. I have a Jeep Cherokee also. It's a 91. I've had it for like 12, 13 years. And so I drive it back to Firestone. I get the coolant flushed. I've had it for all that time. I've never had to add a drop of coolant. But I was like, since I'm gonna be dependent on it more now, I'm gonna get this coolant flush, a couple of things, no big deal. I had this tape. It's this kind of like tape that you can fix like hockey sticks and stuff that's supposed to be like waterproof and really strong. And so I was just going to wrap that tape around the leak in my car and drive it home. So it's like this tape, you got to like soak it in water for like 20 seconds and then unwrap it and then wrap it around whatever you want. And then it's let it sit for 15 minutes and it seals up, it hardens. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. So I take my tape and I try to soak it in the water and it's not working. I think I've had it for years. So I just never used it. So that didn't work. I'm like, well, whatever. So I put a little coolant in my car. I drive it home, no problem. It doesn't overheat or anything, but I get home, I see where it's spraying out. Like, I'll just fix the leak myself. Or, order the part, put it on, do it right, whatever. So I start my new job Wednesday. So say Sunday, so I'm talking like 4 days ago. So I had, I think I get my results back like Monday. They call me, tell me everything's cool. Asked me when I wanted to start, and I said Wednesday. So I had Monday off, Tuesday off. Go to work Wednesday, go to work Thursday. Friday I go to work, and my Jeep is leaking coolant. So my car is sitting at home because it leaks coolant. Drive the Jeep, no problem. Well, now it's leaking coolant. Gotta be kidding me. It hasn't leaked a drop of coolant the whole time I've had it. So I get it home. Before it was running hot, it was going just barely above the middle. It wasn't overheating or anything. So I get it home, and so the coolant's hitting the belt, spraying everywhere. But I'm like looking at it, and I'm looking out from underneath. I have coolant splashing me in the face and getting in my eyes. I'm like, okay, the water pump is leaking. I'm like, great. Okay. So I can work on cars myself. I can do a lot of stuff, but I don't like to. So I get it priced. Basically, one place, so they don't even know how much they'll charge me. Maybe 400, maybe 500. Doesn't know, because it's supposed to be this place with a good reputation. But didn't even know. It depends how long it takes them to do it. They don't do that kind of thing very often. Like, I don't like that idea of who knows how much it'll cost. Midas quotes me $350. Like, great. You can get the parts for like $50. I don't know exactly how much they cost, but they don't cost a lot. So I was thinking I'll just do it myself. It's kind of a pain. I'll just take it somewhere. And so this is Friday where I'm making the phone calls, and my brain is just like, there's so many things that were going wrong. It's like, it wasn't like I was really depressed or anything like that. It was just like, okay, I got to figure this stuff out. There's a million things happening. And so I call about getting a rental car, because if I take my car to Midas and let somebody else do the work, because I don't want to, because if a bolt ends up breaking or something like that, or stripping out, something happens. If you ever work on cars, you know that sometimes what seems like a pretty easy job can turn out to be a nightmare. So sometimes I just like to pay somebody else to do it. I'm like, okay, so I'm calling about rental cars. Okay, I can go basically for a few days. It's going to cost me a couple $100. All right, fine. Maybe I'll do that and then get it fixed. Now I'm out like $550 for just getting the Jeep fixed and getting around. And then there's like another car needs like this $1,400 part if it's new, or I can get a used one for $200. That's all this overwhelming stuff. Or do I just take an Uber to work and trust that they'll be there on time? Because the Midas said they couldn't get to my car until at least Tuesday. It'd probably be Tuesday. Like, well, so I go out yesterday morning. I go out, like, okay, I'm gonna try to see where this leak is exactly, because if I'm gonna do the water pump, might as well do it that day, which would be yesterday. So I go out, I start up the car, and I don't see it leaking. Like, okay, I make sure it has coolant in it, and I'm squeezing the hoses, and the hose on the bottom, I'm laying on the ground underneath. I squeeze the bottom radiator hose, and it seems fine. It's old, but it seems fine. And then I go to the top of the engine, and I squeeze the top radiator hose, and coolant squeezes out the side of it by the clamp. Like, oh, this could be really fantastic. So I cut a couple inches off of the hose, and then put it back on. No leak. So it took, once I figured it out, which I'm looking at the car for just a few minutes before I figured it out. Because the first time I looked, I had coolant spraying all over my face, and it's all over. I couldn't tell where it was coming from. But once I looked at it without coolant spraying in my face, I'll see oh, it's this hose right on top. Real easy to get to. So a knife and a screwdriver in 1 minute, and it was fixed. It's like, well, that was a cool lesson, because I was so tempted, just because I had all these other pressures and frustrations, just to pay somebody else $350 to put on this $50 part. so I wouldn't have to mess with it myself. But once I kind of like stepped back, give myself a little time to think, it's like so many things happening. It can be hard. It can be hard to think. I was looking at it and it looked like the water pump was leaking. It had water coming. It had coolant coming off of it. I could see it spraying the belt, spraying up in my face, spraying all over everything. Well, but that wasn't what was really happening. What was really happening was it was coming off the top hose going down, but so much of it was landing on the pump that it made the pump look like it was leaking too. So the moral of the story, what I'm getting at here is, if you back off and just give yourself the space to think, look at your options, look at your worst case scenarios. Okay. If you have a car problem, because it could have been worse, things can happen. Are you better off taking an Uber? Are you better off renting a car? Are you better off, it's good to have like all these options in place, price these different things, prepare for this worst case scenario. I was even looking at other cars to buy. That old Jeep, man, it's been a miracle. I paid $550 for it like 12 years ago. I think it might be coming on 13 years, 12 years, 13 years. Done a few things to it, but not much. It's been really amazing. Really amazing. So, and then, fix the other car. I did move this, like the hose up on the other car, so it might have covered the hole. I don't know, but I'm going to get something to fix it. So anyways, I hope that story makes sense. You have like all these problems. Sometimes all this stuff comes at you. This is all in 1 month. So $900 a month reduction in business, which can come back. Next month could be a whole different thing. Get fired from my job that I pretty much count on. Problems with both of my vehicles. It gets to be a lot. And then I get hired and cool again, fix the car. So I was going to call the name of this podcast Stop and Go. Here's a song called Stop Go by Widespread Panic. Used to ride the highway. I used to know where I was going. Now this shady dirt road is feeling cool beneath my feet. Used to ride on to get to where I was going in a day. Now I've got to stop and go and stop and go along the way. Was a fool to waste my time just searching my mind, but the more I find the time to search. Used to ride on to get to where I was going in a daze, and now I've got to stop and go and stop and go along the way. Driving song. The leaves seen through my window pane remind me that it's time to move my life again. November sun is felt by none. A chilly breeze has blown my thoughts to what's to come. A warm coffee, some vitamin C, a bowl for the cat, a bowl for the dog, a bowl for me. Choose my bluest tape and unlock my car. An honest tune with a lingering lead has taken me this far. On the edge of the porch, in the warm evening night, throwing the bone for the dog, I see two passing lights. Well, I wonder where that driver's bound. Is there someone, somewhere, some way out there that I've not found? A touch of smoke ain't what it seems. Dust and sunshine can also make my eyes look mean. But there's a brown cat sleeping through this day's show. topping off the wood pile, breathing slow. A little bit of a widespread panic here. Screen door to the farmer's porch, to the back porch, to the back lands. It's never left closed. A new air pushed a full wind that brought worlds on through that only he could know. As the last of November passed with his new life, with his new wife, she said she was feeling a little cold. The ghost of a clown just danced in and did a few tricks and danced out again, warming a farmer's soul. Summer was all there was. We were working, breathing heat, terrorizing out of control. Through that door came a breeze, wrapped on through our heads and around our spines, cooling off the burning floor. This morning's breaking woke us long enough. We were sure we could see the whole of some older birds riding to the ground on the falling leaves. Riding to the ground on some falling leaves. One last time to feed. Make sense? Making sense to you? So when I was talking about like all these things that happen in a month and how I'm not usually somebody say I had a bad month, I can't look back at August and say it was a bad month. I got a new job that's better than the one I had before. I would like to have my own business that's plenty profitable enough to take care of everything I want to take care of. That's not the reality right now. So the business is profitable. I have great clients. I have people sending me emails, inquiring about coming in to train. I've had several new people come in to train since I've opened in April. Several new people have been in. It's really been amazing in this partnership with Larry. We have some cool things coming up. Some of it I kind of thought we would already be doing, but for various reasons, he says like in Russia they have a saying like measure 10 times, cut once, or measure 7 times, cut once. And it's like, yeah, we have here it's like measure twice, cut once. But he wants to make sure everything he does is just so professional and so he's like, the best kettlebell lifter in history. He's done a lot of amazing things. And so we're working on some cool stuff. It's pretty awesome to be partnering with him. And for various reasons, it's not even like that. I'm just talking about going back to April. So it's really just a few months. But these things are happening and getting refined. Our ideas are getting refined. I think people are really going to like it. And there's very cool things happening. Around the same time when I got fired from my job, and I was thinking, okay, what am I going to change? What am I going to how am I going to switch things up? And I'm always thinking about this kind of thing, from doing like short movies to doing, which I pitched the idea to my friends. They're into it. Have all these like things happening. So I'm always thinking, how am I going to change things? And how can I make sure the gym, even if there is a rough time, which is just the reality of businesses, that it doesn't hurt. So like summertime, Indiana gyms, there's just like there's a decline in clients usually. And so it's like, what can I do? So the simple thing is have a job. So now instead of like getting to work at 3:00 in the morning, my regular hours are from 6 to 2:30, which is perfect because I don't have to wake up at a crazy, stupid 2:00 in the morning. My alarm goes off at 4:30 to make sure I'm not late. I have 14 alarms set. I have 2 phones. Each of them goes off at 4:25, 4:26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. That's 6 each on 2 phones. And then I have a regular alarm clock. And I went out and bought a new alarm clock. Because sometimes what would happen is I'm not a lazy guy. I mean, if you know me, I have a million things going on. I'm working my ass off all the time. It's what I like to do. I like some downtime. I've been doing a lot of couch riding the past few days. So if I don't have anything to do, you might just find me just parked on that couch all day. I'm kind of into that too. But most of the time, I'm going, I'm thinking, I'm planning. So I bought this new alarm clock to associate it with something new, and that's not being late. So usually I'm not late for stuff, but it happens. It happened with this last job. Got fired. Got hired next day, even better job, better hours. But so my deal for this new alarm clock, so I get a new, now I can associate it with something different. So I put it over my stove, and it goes off at 4:30. So while these other alarms, like it's all this chaos for 5 minutes, my other alarm clock goes off at 4:27. So maybe instead of hitting like, if I accidentally hit off instead of snooze, which has happened, and I end up waking up late. This new alarm clock, I have a deal in my mind. I will never hit snooze on that alarm clock. It's by the stove. Why is it by the stove? I use a French press to make my coffee. So I boil my water first. So it's over there. To turn it off, I'm by the stove. While I'm by the stove, I got time to get my coffee ready. And even though I don't have to wake up as early as 4:30, I set my alarm for 4:30 because now I'll have like some coffee before I even leave. I gave myself plenty of time. And then it takes me about 25 minutes to get to work. I leave 45 minutes early. I leave by 5:15. I've been doing that. Maybe like a time I get out like 5:16, but I get to work way early. And that way, if there's a flat tire, and this place is, I'm not going to mess this up. It's perfect hours. So I take clients in the afternoons and evenings so I can get home by 3, get cleaned up, and usually I have clients by, it depends, like, it depends, but steady, like from like 4:30 on to like 7 or something. Depends through the week. Sometimes more, but what was I saying? Oh, so this new alarm, I can associate with that. I'll never hit snooze on that alarm. And then so far so good. It's been working. What else was I going to talk about? So my point was I wasn't trying to complain about stuff because I know other people have a lot worse things happening than me. And like what sometimes it seems like a bad thing, getting fired. Oh, that's terrible. Well, then get hired the next day. It's a fortunate thing to happen because before that happened, I was thinking, okay, I have a bunch of friends that run businesses. Even if, they might not like hire me like full time right away, I could probably do something. I can do something here and there until I figure stuff out. That kind of thing probably wouldn't be that difficult for me to figure out. But the whole moral of the story, if I've been rambling on, step back, take some time, think through your options, your worst case scenarios. Uber versus rent a car for a few days versus, but it helps like take a step back. Kind of funny, I was just listening to a little bit of the Jocko's podcast, Jocko Willink, and like I already had this kind of planned out, but he was kind of saying the same thing about like stepping back. And I'm like writing out my notes already from like what I was going to talk about, what I'm going to read. And uh, he was like saying some very similar things. Something that he was talking about was like somebody asked him if he studied Stoicism on Twitter, and he just wrote back, no. And then the same person replied, oh, well, it seems like you do because of this, this, and this. And he said the guy was, being cool, but it was just like kind of going on about it. And he's like, well, to be honest with you, I just don't read that stuff. And kind of the way he was talking about, like whether you're like quoting the Buddha or quoting Jesus or quoting Marcus Aurelius or whatever, he's like, come up with these truths on your own. I was like, why do people like this stuff? They're like these universal truths. And I like to read. I have some Kahlil Gibran I'm about to read. I was just reading some Widespread Panic lyrics. But I'll get all these books. I think I have like 48 things out from the library, 48 books out from the library. A lot of them are like these poetry books, Kahlil Gibran, stories. Some of it's like jujitsu stuff, Walt Whitman. And the reality is I'm probably not going to read hardly any of them. I have some like Tom Brown books. So I get all these books, and I almost always have like 40 some things out from the library. I'm not exaggerating. That's not an exaggeration. I probably have at least 20 books on my thing right here. Let's count them. 4, 7, 9, 12, 13, 14, 17, 18, 20, 21, 22, and then 3 audiobooks. I have 24 books just on my table right here. Oh, there's another one. 25, whatever. Scattered all over the place. Some of them I've read quite a bit of. Other ones not. And I'll probably just keep renewing them until I take them back to the library. But there's something about that, like what I liked about what Jocko said, was just like to answer no, because it's like, oh, I'd like to think I could. There's a time I get like this Buddhist books, like the Buddhist canon. Man, that's a lot of dry reading. You get this really thick book with really tiny writing, and it just seems like kind of like repeat itself. And it's like, is it really that profound? I don't know. This is from Kahlil Gibran's Sand and Foam. When my cup is empty, I resign myself to its emptiness. But when it is half full, I resent its half fullness. Okay. I'm just going to read through several of these here without analyzing too much. I've actually not read any of this. So this is all just random from this book. This is not the first time I opened the book. I opened it up to make sure it was like, because some of these, the Kahlil Gibran stuff is longer stories. I didn't want to read anything too long. The reality of the other person is not in what he reveals to you, but in what he cannot reveal to you. Therefore, if you would understand him, listen not to what he says, but rather to what he does not say. Half of what I say is meaningless. I say it so that the other half may reach you. Yeah. That kind of hits home a little bit for me. I can tell these like pretty long, winding stories. Right? If you listen to the show, you've heard them. But I hope I get a lot of good feedback from the show. Every once in a while, somebody will throw in some negative comments, but that's to be expected when you reach this level of fame. Oh, let's just spill some coffee on this book. Well, what's a Kahlil Gibran book if it doesn't have a little bit of coffee spilled on it? Don't tell the library I did that. A sense of humor is a sense of proportion. Okay, it was just a little spot. Just a little spot. My loneliness was born when men praised my talkative faults and blamed my silent virtues. I like that. My loneliness was born when men praised my talkative faults and blamed my silent virtues. When life does not find a singer to sing her heart, she produces a philosopher to speak her mind. A truth is to be known always, to be uttered sometimes. The real in us is silent, the acquired is talkative. The voice of life in me cannot reach the ear of life in you, but let us talk that we may not feel lonely. Damn, I like that. The voice of life in me cannot reach the ear of life in you, but let us talk that we may not feel lonely. When two women talk, they say nothing. When one woman speaks, she reveals all her life. You know, I'm a big fan of Kahlil Gibran. To be quite frank, most of what I've read, I've done it, on the show. I've read from The Prophet many times, sometimes repeating the same ones. I've read various other ones. I did read another book, The Earth Gods, Kahlil Gibran. I just finished that one. I don't think I read any of it on the air. It's a little short book. It was the last one that he wrote. This one I read, the voice of life in me cannot reach the ear of life in you, but let us talk that we may not feel lonely. Does that make sense to you? What do you think about that? Now, I'm on. I've mentioned it before on air. I'm on this dating app called Bumble. I don't spend a lot of time on it, but I check in with it because if you match up, you only have 24 hours to respond. So I probably check it almost every day, but I don't really do too much on it. Just like click on there, see what's happening, and see if anybody's matching up. And like I don't know if it's how relevant it is, but one of the last woman that got back with me, we messaged back and forth a couple times. She lives in this town in southern Indiana, not real far south. It would take like an hour and some drive from here. But it's a really cool spot that I like to go to. It's in, she lives in Nashville, Indiana. I've been going there since I was a little kid. They have a lot of cool state parks. And, I was like, well, what do you like to do for fun? She asked me what I like to do for fun. And I was talking about like climbing trees. I was like, my profile picture that's me 60 feet up in a pine tree. And so we like to get out with my friends. We're climbing trees. We're hanging out in the woods, doing this kind of stuff, going to concerts. And I have on there, the box I don't have like written out that I don't drink, I don't smoke. And so many of the women on there, I mean, and also have on there that I'm vegan. But it's like so many people, I'm not really against people that like drink or smoke weed or anything like that. It's not like I think there's anything morally wrong with it, um, or even all that unhealthy if it's, unless you're smoking like a lot, but there's ways of doing it that's, I don't think really that unhealthy. For me, it's not good. I don't think it's good for me to do it. I haven't done any kind of intoxicant in over 7 years. Not a beer, nothing. But I don't care if people that I'm hanging out with, if I'm at a concert with somebody and they drink a beer, it's not, I don't care about that. Or if I'm at their house, a party, or people are drinking, I don't care. As long as it's not like, if drinking is the thing, if that's why people are going somewhere, then I'm not going to be having fun. But if the event is something else and people just happen to be drinking while that event is going on, then I don't care. So if it's a concert, they're for the concert. And so who cares if my friends are drinking beer? It's not a big deal. But if it's like, hey, you want to go to a kegger Saturday? No. Nobody's asked me if I wanted to go to a kegger in 20 years or something. I don't know. But so I have this group of friends. It's like when you're climbing trees with somebody and you get that high up in a tree, there's an element of danger. We do it measured. It doesn't seem like we're doing anything too stupid. But you have to be paying attention. If you're holding your phone up to your ear with your shoulder, trying to like climb down a tree, and you're returning, you're gonna fall. And from that high, you're getting messed up bad. You'll be ricocheting down, like Rambo. Remember when Rambo jumped off the cliff into the pine? You could do that. It wouldn't be good to fall through the tree like that. But you're just like in the moment, or when we're lifting rocks above our heads. Okay, these rocks don't come with like these real great handles that are made like, nice dumbbell handle with nice grip. You can just chalk. No, it's these natural rocks that we figured out and press overhead, but like one slip and it could hit you in the head. And then you have like a 100+ pound rock hit you cut you open, or when you're balancing up on something high, you get cut, climb down from these trees, come back from the woods, you have rocks, I'm like scraped up, my arms are scraped up, I've got cut on my leg, nothing bad, just like don't even notice it happening at the time because you're so focused on what's happening. So I have this group, and we get together. Sometimes it's just a few of us. Sometimes there's been like 8 of us or so out there. And if you're in the Indianapolis area on Facebook, you can look up Indie Strength and Movement Community. Ask to join the group. And we usually, not always, post like when we're hanging out. People can post their business stuff. If you're a trainer, if you have a yoga class, if you have whatever, there's capoeira teachers and all kinds of cool people in this group do all kinds of different stuff. You can feel free to post anything relating to your business. We're not worried about competition and jealousy and that kind of thing. It doesn't exist. But there's something about just like getting out with this group of friends, and sometimes there is like some really great conversation. It's like a lot of what we're doing is like beyond conversation. Let's see. We don't just like get together and gossip. And I have friends might get together for coffee, work out, whatever. And sometimes the idea is just to talk and catch up. And that's cool too. People need that. Dudes need that. A lot of guys think that like, oh, I don't need to talk. Just if you have people you can talk to, it's cool. It's good. And ask people what's going on in their life. Like, care. People have stuff going on. And sometimes when you look at somebody, maybe people like that want to talk about it. Like, so my business, I was like talking about some things that like, I wouldn't say it was a bad month of business, but there was like a little dip. Like somebody dropped off, a couple new people came, but it was like people that came are more like they don't even plan on a long-term thing. This is just like lessons. But it's like kind of a hit last month. Now it's a new month. But like talk to people about like what's going on, because a lot of people, what they're putting out there on Instagram or whatever is the stuff that's going great. And one of the compliments that I get about this show is that it's like organic, it's real. I'm not trying to present myself as something that I'm not. So if I talk about my gym, all in all, it's pretty amazing what's happened since April. But this is like the first like little dip that I've had. This is the first time I've owned a business and not just been an independent at somebody else's gym. So I forget where I was going with that. I hope I'm making sense. It's kind of like half of what I say is meaningless, but I say it so the other half may reach you. Kind of like that. It reminds me of it's like Tom Brown Jr. Do you know who Tom Brown Jr. is? He is like this expert tracker. He wrote a book called The Tracker, and he wrote a bunch of other books, field guides and Way as a Scout. I have a bunch of them right over there from the library. One of them's called Grandfather. I don't know whether to believe this story or not. I kind of do. I kind of don't. But supposedly, like he was out in the Pine Barrens in New Jersey, where he's from. He was a little kid, and he meets this other boy out there. And that boy's grandpa is a full-blooded Apache scout. And so for the next 10 years or so, whatever, Tom Brown Jr. is learning from this old Apache scout the ways of the wilderness and the earth. And I was like, sometimes when I'm reading that, it's like, okay, yeah, this is cool stuff to learn. If he tells you about tracking, it probably count on, but some of it gets a little bit far out. I don't know. I'm not an expert tracker at all. So it's like some of the stuff it seems really true, and then other stuff it's like, this guy just made this story up. One of my buddies actually went to his school, and what's cool about this new job that I have is I want to take this class that starts, I think it starts in January. Shikari class. And I think it lasts until September. I think it's like one Saturday a month or something like that. But this new job, like the Saturdays are more like optional. So my last job, Saturdays were mandatory, 8 hours, get there at 3:00 in the morning. And so now it's like, oh, I think I can do this. So you learn about like tracking and bird calls and a bunch of wilderness stuff. So I'm pretty sure I can do that. It's a good price for it. But he went to Tom Brown school, and I asked him a little bit, and I said, you know, what is this stuff true? And like somebody said, oh yeah, it's true. Like the tracking, the camouflage, the scouting. He's like, oh, like like sneak up on animals or like blending into the environment, that kind of stuff. And there's some crazy stories in the tracker. Even like sneaking onto military bases and like teaching this other guy who was like falling behind, taught him, and then all of a sudden he's, these teenagers start teaching him stuff, and then he becomes like the shiny star of his military unit. But anyways, what was I saying? I forget where I was going with that. Oh, but my buddy said there's a lot of coyote in his teachings, and there's coyote like on his books. Like the coyote is the trickster, and Tom Brown even says like only a fool would believe everything I say. He's like, you got to prove this stuff for yourself. I think he also said like, but I'm right. So it seems kind of it's worth digging into, right? I know even though I've spent a lot of time out in the woods, I know I can improve my awareness. Because I know I don't see the landscape like a tracker does. I know my buddy sees things that I don't. I know that. So I want to get better at that. So back to this book, Sand and Foam, Kahlil Gibran. Only the dumb envy the talkative. If winter should say, spring is in my heart, who would believe winter? You like that one? If winter should say, spring is in my heart, who would believe winter? Every seed is a longing. Should you really open your eyes and see, you would behold your image in all images. And should you open your ears and listen, you would hear your own voice in all voices. God, that's why I like Kahlil Gibran. This is my first time reading this stuff. I actually turned to this page and read just a couple of them before I started the podcast. But as soon as I saw how it was laid out, I knew that I was going to be reading from this. This would be one that I read all of. It takes two of us to discover truth, one to utter it and one to understand it. Though the wave of words is forever upon us, yet our depth is forever silent. It's talking a lot about words, isn't it? It talks a lot about talking, understanding. Interesting. Many a doctrine is like a window pane. We see through it, but it divides us from truth. Oh, man. This dude's good. This dude's good. Man, I think he's one of my favorites for sure. Now let's play hide and seek. Should you hide in my heart, it would not be difficult to find you. But should you hide behind your own shell, then it would be useless for anyone to seek you. A woman may veil her face with a smile. How noble is the sad heart who would sing a joyous song with joyous hearts. He who would understand a woman or dissect genius or solve the mystery of silence is the very man who would wake from a beautiful dream to sit at a breakfast table. I would walk with all those who walk. I would not stand still to watch the procession passing by. You owe more than gold to him who serves you. Give him of your heart or serve him. Nay, we have not lived in vain. Have they not built towers of our bones? Let us not be particular and sectional. The poet's mind and the scorpion's tail rise in glory from the same earth. Every dragon gives birth to a Saint George who slays it. Trees are poems that the earth writes upon the sky. We fell them down and turn them into paper that we may record our emptiness. Trees are poems that the earth writes upon the sky. We fell them down and turn them into paper that we may record our emptiness. Jeez. Should you care to write, and only the saints know why you should, you must needs have knowledge and art and magic, the knowledge of the music of words, the art of being artless, and the magic of loving your readers. They dip their pens in our hearts and think they are inspired. Should a tree write its autobiography, it would not be unlike the history of a race. If I were to choose between the power of writing a poem and the ecstasy of a poem unwritten, I would choose the ecstasy. It is better poetry. But you and all my neighbors agree that I always choose badly. Poetry is not an opinion expressed. It is a song that rises from a bleeding wound or a smiling mouth. I'm going to wrap it up here pretty soon. Let's just show something about a fox. I just just flip through a page. Said a hunted fox followed by 20 horsemen and a pack of 20 hounds. Of course they will kill me, but how poor and how stupid they must be. Surely it would not be worthwhile for 20 foxes riding on 20 asses and accompanied by 20 wolves to chase and kill one man. It is the mind in us that yields to the laws made by us, but never the spirit in us. A traveler am I, and a navigator, and every day I discover a new region within my soul. I think I'll finish on that one. A traveler am I, and a navigator, and every day I discover a new region within my soul. Well, this book won its place is the next thing I will read. From start to bottom. From start to bottom? Is that what I said? So what do you want to do? What do you want your life to be like? I remember my jiu-jitsu teacher, I was talking to him. This was a long time ago. This is a Japanese style. The dojo was very strict Japanese etiquette. Um, like even if you're a very nice person, you're going to break tons of rules. You know, and there's not like a harsh penalty like before you're told, but like if somebody's sword is on the ground, if you just step over it, that's a terrible, terrible thing to do. You might not know that. Like, what's the big deal? It's kind of like crowded. There's a sword. I stepped over it. Well, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. But even like the nice guy with all these good intentions didn't know. So there's all sorts of etiquette things. But I was asking I don't even remember what brought it up, but he was talking about how so my teacher was invited to the United States from Korea in 1967 to come here and teach judo because there was a demand for judo and authentic teachers. And I remember him talking about like he had the opportunity to teach Taekwondo. So that's Korean art. He's from Korea. But he chose like Japanese arts. So he taught several Japanese arts: judo, jiu-jitsu, kendo, which is sword technique, aikido, which is sword technique, kyudo, which is Zen archery, Zen meditation, Japanese style. And he said there's a lot of money in Taekwondo, but he chose this other way. Because it was like, because he said, how do I really want to live my life? What do I want my life to be like? And he wasn't trying to insult Taekwondo. It's just not what he wanted to do. You know, when I had all these things going wrong, and I'm looking and see how like how vulnerable business is. You know, I was watching this thing on the UFC, and when they like Dana White and the Fertitta brothers bought the UFC like in 2001 or something like that. They bought it for $2 million, and basically it was a cage. There were like some fighters under contract, and like the name UFC. So it was like not a good deal. And they ended up selling it for $4 billion recently. They were $44 million down before things started going their way. They buy it for $2 million, and they're sinking money into this thing. And imagine that's you, like your family's money. Buy it for $2 million. Okay, it's this cool thing. And then you put another 2 million into it. 4 million, 10 million, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 million, 40 million, $44 million. And it's just burning money. And one of the Fertitta brothers called Dana White and said, see what you can sell it for. We can't keep burning our family's money. And Dana White said, okay. So he started making some phone calls. And so he got back to the Fertittas and he said, we can sell it for maybe $6, $7, $8 million. And Fertitta said, okay. Hung up the phone at night. It was at nighttime. He said, I called him back the next morning. Fertitta called Dana White. He said, fuck it. Let's keep going. They believed in it. They were passionate about it. You know, they didn't do it just to make money. They were passionate about this. They trained jiu-jitsu. They trained boxing. They trained in this. They had a passion for it. Big fans of the sport. $44 million down. Bought it for $2 million. 10, 20, 30, 40 million down. Let's keep going. They recently sold it for $4 billion. Absolutely amazing. Dana White's still president because who else is going to run the UFC except for that dude? He's perfect for running that. But anyways, I was having all this stuff going wrong. And I'm not a doom and gloom type of guy, but I am like I was saying before, you plan for these. You have a car problem. Okay. So you don't know when you're going to get your car back. It's going to be a long weekend. Shop's going to be closed. Okay. What are you going to do? Is it better to rent a car? You're going to trust Uber will be there on time to get you to work. There and back Uber. Okay. Now you can rent a car for about that much. Because I have to get to the gym too. So I got to get to and from the shop. And I got to get to and from the gym. That's 4 trips a day, at least from Uber. I'm better off renting a car. Okay. Now, then, so you're figuring out all this stuff. Like if I fix it myself, if I just have the shop do it, I have 50 million puzzles going on all at once. And I see this gym closed. I won't say which one it was. I did not know the guy personally. We've sent a couple messages. I'll just put it at that. A while back about something. He closed his gym, and he said, "I don't want to give away who it is. I don't know him personally, and it's not my business to tell." But he said he's like, he has to focus on his other business. But my guess is you don't close a business that's doing well. So his post on social media made it sound like he just needed to focus. His focus was spread too thin, which may be true. But there's something that's kind of like, even though I didn't know him, I can't say he was a friend of mine or anything. But even though I didn't know him, there's something about that gym owner having to shut his doors. And I could just imagine him moving his equipment out, asking his buddies to help move his equipment out. What's he going to do with it? It's, it's sad. I hope, you know, maybe it's kind of weird, but I don't feel competitive, even though I don't want to be too specific. We're in generally the same business. So in one way, you could think of him as competition. Oh, good, another one down, more business for me. Well, I don't think like that. It's like you just don't want to see that. His gym wasn't really very close to mine. It doesn't matter anyway. Even if it was like right next door, I would still. It's still a bummer to see that gym close. I started as a trainer in 1999. I've seen a lot of gyms come and go. And so when I start having like some little some problems happening, I turn on Instagram and I see this post, guy's closing his gym. Like, whoa. So I don't want to let that happen to me. So if I have to work another job full time and have my gym be like after that, that's what I'm going to do. I just started in April, so I don't imagine. It's always good to have more than one stream of income. Training business can be tough because if people can afford a trainer, they can afford to go on vacation. They can afford. That's what a lot of it is. People go on vacation. And then so you're out, however much you're out for that week or 2 weeks, or maybe, you have like a couple of those happening. You have somebody else that has tough business time. They have to quit coming because of financial reasons. There's all kinds of reasons why people may have to quit coming. Schedule changes, whatever. So I think with the plan that I have and working with Valeri on some stuff, I'm pretty sure we're going to be doing really well. His business and my business are like, we're separate, but we're doing some stuff together, if that makes sense. And the gym that I chose, I wasn't taking a huge risk on monthly costs. So I didn't try to get this great big gym and hopefully it'll fill up. When I opened it, it was like, if I just have what I have now, I'm going to be fine. So my first month was profitable. I already had the business. It was a matter of like, instead of meet me here, or meet me in my own place. It's not a huge place, but it has everything we need for a good workout. We have like 80 some kettlebells, pull-up bar, dips, medicine balls. There's jump rope, and there's a bunch of tools to get people in great shape. You don't walk in, it's like this huge, massive box gym, small box gym. But that's something like nice about it too, because I control the volume of the radio. I don't like loud music. When you're trying to coach somebody and there's some loud music pounding in your head while you're trying to like coach somebody's squat. Like, how did that look? I don't know. I don't know how your squat looked. It's like I can't see because the freaking radio's up all the way. It wasn't quite that bad. I could still pay attention to their squat. But now where I am, it's like it's just a lot easier to focus. I think I can do a better job. I have this more cool training coming up. So I'm learning from Valeri. to teach his method. I do my own thing. And I saw something else I wanted to mention. Veli, I'm not so, I think you pronounce her name like Zhang. She's the first Chinese UFC champion. Amazing fight, very short, but amazing fight this weekend. She's the first Chinese UFC champion. There's been, just for like pay-per-views, is like 240 some UFCs. And no Chinese champion. She was the first one. So what's my point there? So it's like, once you get to like, say you get to UFC, up until then, like, oh, there's never been a Chinese champion. Like, Chinese people are just not going to win UFC. There's been Chinese people in there, they just haven't won. So she's the first one. So, well, I think like MMA it's like one. I think the world is not as racist as like our media tries to make us seem. Because like UFC is an awesome example of it. You have people from all over the world, every color imaginable, fighting each other. They hug, they shake hands. It's a sport. It's so much respect. And it's like, it doesn't seem like anybody cares if the black guy wins or the white guy wins. Some of us, like, they want the hometown guy to win, which that's even kind of a weird thing. But like, if somebody like from Indianapolis is fighting, I'm a white guy, but if a black guy from Indianapolis is fighting a white guy from somewhere else, I'm going to be voting. I'll be like probably rooting from the black guy from Indianapolis, just because there's some weird. It's where I live. He lives in the same place. Isn't that cool? We probably know some of the same people. But so if that root for that black guy instead of the white guy from like Washington or whatever, that we don't know. What do I have in common with that guy? So it's like MMA is like this very non-racist thing. It's like it doesn't even come up. Like sometimes people starting to stir stuff about like Conor McGregor. I didn't buy any of that. But there's something about. So what was I? So what's my point? I'm trying to get to. So when you see another business fail, or even succeed, it doesn't mean that yours is going to follow the same route. Maybe you can learn from that. What can you learn from that? Somebody's gym failed. Maybe it's a tough subject to approach, but if it's a friend of yours, or maybe if not, like, hey, I opened my gym and I'm sorry to hear about what happened with you. Is like, can you tell me what happened? This is probably like a really tough thing to approach for people. But like what I would say, and 4 months into having my own, it's crazy it's only been 4 months, but in the 4 months that I've had my own place, the main thing I can say is watch your overhead. So your product or your service is huge. Be the best you can be. Be the best you can be. But like, watch your overhead. And maybe like some businesses, it's hard to not start off with a huge debt. Maybe if you're like, I don't even know. But I was able to move into this place. And in a lot of ways, it's really ideal. Would a bigger place be better? Well, sure. Higher ceilings, a nice outdoor spot. That's coming. I will have a bigger place with an awesome outdoor training place. Not today, probably not tomorrow, but it's coming. It's not the right time right now. So I'm at a place where even all my expenses could go, all my income from the gym could go to zero. I can still cover it with what I have, from the other job, and it wouldn't be comfortable, but it doesn't take me very much to get that rent paid. And so that's kind of like my advice is, it's like, don't bite off more than you can chew, basically. Start. And it's amazing how things can fall into place. It's amazing how things can fall apart. But I think I've rambled on enough. I appreciate everybody listening. This podcast is doing really well, and I have cool guests coming up. I have like couple guests that are returning. Well, and then there's like somebody else that's probably coming on too. There's several good guests coming up. It's a matter of getting them scheduled, and stay on the path. And even if you take a few steps off the path, that's just part of the path. You can take a few steps off. It only takes one step to get back on. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.